Hello, I'm Richard Chambers, the President and CEO of the Institute of Internal Auditors. The IIA's Internal Audit Foundation recently published my second book, Trusted Advisors: Key Attributes of Outstanding Internal Auditors. In it, I share my insights and those of leading chief audit executives around the attributes and character traits needed to become a trusted advisor to management and the board. One of those top chief audit executives was Shawn Tebben, Vice President of Internal Audit at Vail Resorts. In the book, she notes auditors skilled in critical thinking don't get stuck in blindly following an audit program or checklist. They are agile in how they approach the project and are confident in adjusting as new information is learned or analyzed. Shawn joins me here today to delve a little further into this important attribute that all trusted advisors must possess. Shawn, welcome.
Thank you.
Let me start by getting your quick definition of critical thinking.
When I think about this, it's the agile mind that an auditor brings to the table is really critical. And I think that they bring a perspective that is both broader and deeper than just looking at what's on the surface. And they tend to really be curious about what is behind an issue or a challenge or a problem, and then oftentimes are able to connect dots that other folks really can't see because they have a broader perspective of the organization. How
does this concept of critical thinking manifests itself in the day-to-day workings of an internal audit function or within a particular audit engagement?
I can think of a couple of different ways that shows up. One is in the context of the actual work that we as the audit team do. And it's really easy for folks to follow the audit program or the testing plan that's been in place for a long time. And it's amazing to me that the times that somebody can take a look at a particular test or program and say, I'm sure this has been the way it's always been, but I don't think this is the best way to approach it. And I think we can actually consolidate these three tests into one test, or we can consolidate these different controls into one control. And those are some of the ways that I've seen folks really apply that.
You got to be a little open-minded about it, right?
Incredibly open-minded. I can think of another example where that didn't happen, and sometimes those are as instructive as when they are present. So, I had an audit team doing some work, and there was a sample size that they had decided was important for that particular audit. And as I'm going through the results after the fact and reviewing the work with the team, and it was pretty clear after maybe a handful of items that they had looked at that this process was broken. And doing more testing was only going to tell us that it was in fact actually broken. And when I was asking about why didn't we just stop and call a timeout and say, we're not going to gain any more knowledge here, it was clear that they just got so focused on getting the task done that they forgot to sort of raise their line of sight and say, oh my goodness, this is really not a good investment of our time,
right,
let alone the folks on the other side of the table's time. Maybe we should focus on coming up with some solutions.
Do you think critical thinking is something that is instinctive, or can it be learned?
I think it's a little of both. I think that, there are folks that naturally come to the table with very much a big picture view and a broad perspective. But I also think that especially as folks are newer in their career, that we as leaders have a lot to teach them in this regard. And it's about having the conversation with them to help them explore a broader point of view than they might otherwise be exposed to, just because they haven't had sort of the battle scars that we gain as chief audit executives. So I think that if we take the time to help them ask those add-on questions and get them thinking about those connections that they might not see or have experienced yet, that it can in fact be something that they can learn.
Well, thank you for joining me today and taking on such a critical topic of critical thinking. I'm Richard Chambers, the President and CEO of the Institute of Internal Auditors.